welcome everybody into the Ryan Ripken Show, and thank you guys for the delay and staying with us. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. We had a lot to talk about, Zach, and I apologize for me not being able to participate yesterday. We can talk about that later on because your guy was dealing with some things. But we got a big show planned ahead for you. First off, we are going to have Daniel Alvarez-Montes of El Extra Base joining us here in a moment. Talk a little bit about what's going on in his world and the World Baseball Classic. The groups have been established. Then I know we're going to hit heavy Orioles here. And the big thing is with the Orioles, the pitching injuries, Zach Eflin being the recent one that is now on the shelf. What does it mean? What's the panic meter for the Orioles here, Zach? And then let's just say we had a chance to sit down with a former Oriole, and he was in the news a lot, maybe because they're out in Arizona and Baltimore's playing there, and there's a few comments that were said, and maybe we had a chance to sit down with him. And actually, maybe to tease that, we'll talk about who that is. Zach, let's play that clip, that quick clip.
Yeah, here we go.
Talking if you were pitching today. I think not facing off against the Birds as well. I think that was a good gift. Well,
wait, is this one of these things where I think they can hear it?
If you guys can hear us, let it. If you guys can hear it, let us know. As well, I think.
Yeah,
if you
guys.
But if not, let me know.
Yeah,
anyway, tomato. Why does this keep happening?
This has happened a lot recently, I feel like.
Yeah, a lot. I know that.
They're saying they can hear it.
Oh, we can hear it. Okay, well, hey, that's Corbin Burnes. We had a chance to talk with Corbin Burnes, and it was great catching up with him. And we kind of want to set the record straight with all the comments that happened yesterday. So he was kind enough to sit down with us and talk specifically because a lot of people were going back and forth on what it means and what actually was taking place. And the biggest goal that we try to create here at the Ryan Ripken Show is context, and also take players outside of just on the field, go beyond and hear more of what the words that they say so we can bring it all together here. So we'll be doing that. We'll have all of that in just a moment. But guys, appreciate it. And if you're just coming in now, hit that like and subscribe button as we continue to do all these things. And yes, Josiah, this was kind of why we wanted to do this. It's the same questions over and over again. And yes, we kind of did have to ask something, but I'd say Zach was a little bit different. Yeah. A little bit different on our case because I think people were trying to look at it from a sense of, you're trying to make something into nothing else more than, hey, this is what the guy decided. And it was almost like trying to pin against it. The Orioles do enough. Or the Diamondbacks, did they really make the best offer? Well, it's a lot of different times and conversations. So we appreciate each and every one of you. And actually, if we have a chance, we might have another guest to come on to talk about the injuries as well specifically. But we won't tease that unless we get confirmation on there. But we do have confirmation on our first guest here, Zach.
We do.
Because he's back there. He's back there. We got it working. And guys, recurring member of the program, friend of the Ryan Ripken Show, and from El Extra Base, let's bring on Daniel Alvarez-Montes. Hey, here we go.
How you doing, man?
How are you doing? How's it going down south?
I'm doing good. I would say it's weird to say this because obviously you guys are more used to cold weather, but it's been kind of chilly today after being maybe the hottest April in South Florida history or something like that. So, yeah, it's pretty cool down here.
Yeah, I mean, define cold. Like, how cold are we talking? Like 50 degrees?
I wouldn't say cold because it's not cold. But it's not cold at all. But it was in the low 70s maybe this morning, and for us that's winter. So yeah,
low 70s.
Low 70s.
You know what? I hope you survived the night.
I know, no, of course.
Hey, but let's kick it off here. First things first. I mean, World Baseball Classic had some announcements, by the way.
Yes.
So we saw a little bit of the groups. but specifically, 2026 is right around the corner here. And honestly, Daniel, that's become like to me, that's one of the most exciting baseball events that they have in the sport outside the big leagues.
For me, I completely agree because it's the only tournament other than, I don't know, maybe, the full regular season, but you have the All-Star game and then the World Series where you see the best teams and the best talent, especially like the one we had last year. But it's the only tournament where you have so many All-Stars playing for something that it's really meaningful for them. And their pride for their countries, their nations, it's so big. And that's what makes it a great tournament. And we finally have all the pools and all the teams confirmed for 2026. Obviously, we had the qualifiers in March. That was a very exciting tournament in both Asia and Arizona. So, the teams that we'll have and the tournament that we'll have next year is going to be big as well.
Yeah, and for the groups that haven't seen this, and if you're listening on the audio platforms, because we do have this out on Spotify and Apple and wherever you get your podcasts, but the USA, they are going to be joined by Brazil, Mexico, Italy, and Britain in Group B. Colombia will be in Group A with Puerto Rico, Cuba, Panama, and Canada. And then Nicaragua joins Group D, which is the Dominican Republic and Venezuela, and then followed with the Netherlands and Israel. And obviously the big teams, Daniel, that people talk about, the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, don't sleep on Colombia, Cuba, Panama, and obviously the U.S. are just a few to name. But you mentioned about, there it is right there. It's exciting. Honestly, I think Mike Trout even said he hasn't been told or heard, from the USA Baseball group, but he says he's in. I think that speaks to it. And I would even say then specifically, Daniel, the Latin players and the Latin countries, they come together. And I would even go further than that. I mean, Japan last year was the event throughout the entire country for that
100%,
finale.
100%. I mean, you had more than half, like 3/4 of the country paralyzed just watching the tournament. That was something huge in Japan. And it also happens, as you mentioned, in the DR, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Colombia. You mentioned, don't sleep on them. They have good big leaguers, and they have a solid group that they know how to play together. From their first appearance in 2017, everything they've done since then is shocking people in the baseball world because they play really good baseball. And they, of course, can do it next year again in Puerto Rico. That group, I think all 5 teams have a legit chance to make it into the next round. Only 2 teams per pool advance. So that obviously makes things even more interesting. Last year, or last WBC in Miami, we had the Dominican, Puerto Rico, and Venezuela, three big rivals. And many people said, okay, Puerto Rico and DR, those are the teams that are going to make it. And Venezuela ended up shocking everyone by being undefeated on the first round and making it to the second round. And then Puerto Rico defeating the DR in that final game of the pooled round was something amazing as well. So, it's pretty exciting. As you mentioned, Trout said that he would love to be back. I can't imagine many stars for like many of the upcoming stars like Adley or Gunnar or even Bobby Witt Jr. again. Hopefully we get even more pitching on not only the U.S. but every team, because I would love to see, I don't know, Skubal, Corbin Burnes, Paul Skeens, guys like that participating in the tournament. So I would anticipate more guys being more encouraged and excited about it.
Yeah, I feel the players, Zach, are more excited about it. I don't know if the big league teams are as excited about it because
they're not.
worry of injury. I mean, look at what the NHL did with their Four Nations event. It was all quote unquote exhibition. And for the World Baseball Classic, yes, you can look at it as being, it's not chasing a World Series, but for these countries,
it means
it means everything.
Yeah,
and I'm going to make it a goal. I got to come down to a game.
You have to come down here. Miami. I remember being at that game, DR and US in 2017. that was one of the biggest games of the tournament. And that night is when I think Miami, they won their right to be the host of the tournament for many years to come. I would expect in the next couple WBCs to have LA involved with so many Japanese players going to the Dodgers. So at some point, I think they will play more games in Dodger Stadium, but obviously not for this tournament. But the atmosphere down here is something that it's unmatched. And I've covered Game 7 of the World Series, All-Star games, big World Series games, regular season games, whatever, you name it. I don't think I can mention something that it's really compared to watching the Dominican Republic or Venezuela or Puerto Rico or the U.S. playing against each other, because it's something that is really big down here.
Yeah, and real fast, I was going to say the atmosphere in all these games is what really separates it, I believe, because yes, we talk about, when you play for your country, it means something, but it's not just meaning something for the players, it means something for the fans. And
Correct.
I mean, every seat is filled, but it's not because they're sitting in it, they're standing, and it is a party for 9 innings. It is the best atmosphere you are going to see at a baseball game. Like you said, Game 7 of World Series doesn't come anywhere close to the atmosphere of the World Baseball Classic, because it does mean something to these, not only these players, but these fans. And that's what I'm most excited for. And like Ryan said, that's why we got to get down there, because I need to be a part of that atmosphere. It just genuinely is. It's a once, every few years, or the only time you really get to see that on a national level or international level for baseball.
Absolutely. And I always think about what Merrill Kelly said. You guys remember in that NLCS against the Phillies, that he said that he's hasn't seen something compared, to that Venezuela U.S. game here in Miami, and that's this statement from many players on those two rosters, and both from the U.S. or Venezuela. And as you mentioned, it means something because the background for many of these guys are really different. But at the end of the day, especially with the Latin countries, we're so similar in so many things, and you can say that at least for those 9 innings, and I put this example as a Venezuelan, for those 9 innings, I know that almost 25 million, almost 30 million of us are watching the game, and knowing that at least for that period, 3-4 hour period, we're together and united, just for one reason, and that means a lot, and I know that because it was so special to see what the families, what the friends of the players had to say before, during, and even after the tournament of what it meant to see them there, talking to fans in the stands in Miami, but also our people in Venezuela, our people in DR, and yeah, that's what it means so much to all of us.
Yeah, and I remember right after the last World Baseball Classic, actually in an interview, Mike Trout asked Mookie Betts about, they were talking, and he was like, unfortunately, Mike Trout hasn't played in a lot of playoff games. They asked Mookie, he was like, was that what it's like to play in the playoffs? And Mookie goes, I'm going to be honest, that was beyond playoffs. That was not just a playoff game. That was a different level. And that just shows how much, one, it means to people and how much the players care. You can tell these guys, it's not for a World Series. They don't care. That World Baseball Classic title, that world champion, title means something. And to these guys, to represent their country, that does mean something.
Well, and look at also the moments, the iconic moments that we're talking about. And I see in the comments of the chat, they brought up the AJ or Adam Jones robbing Manny.
Jones, yeah.
Right. We're talking about then, even for Javi Baez's tag of him staring down when it was Yadier Molina threw it, right? Those iconic picturesque moments.
You can mention the Grand Slam. I'll be okay with it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It still hurts. But you can go ahead and do it.
That was pretty spectacular too. But then Shohei Ohtani versus Mike Trout. And it's a different feel when you see Japan across the chest for Ohtani and a USA across the chest for Trout. And I think that's the part where countries unite for these moments. And I just cannot wait. And we're close. We are less than a year away from this happening yet again. And hopefully then, as we're going to have to make our trip down there We'll try to be there for as many games as we possibly can, because I think it's fair to say you're saying this is a must. If there's a baseball event that you have an opportunity to go to, Daniel,
You have to.
You need to take advantage.
Absolutely, 100%. Because, yeah, the excitement, but also the level of the rosters that we'll have. The Dominican team, that could be one of the best teams ever assembled in the history of baseball. Like, just think about it. And why not? I would love to see Samuel Basayo being the catcher for Team DR next year. Why not? But just think about that team, like with Vladdy, with Marte, Eli at short, J Ram or Machado in third base, Julio. Like, it's gonna be something unreal. Same with the U.S. Same with Venezuela with William Contreras, Salvi, Arraez, Altuve, Ezequiel Tovar, the Gold Glover, had like almost 50 doubles last year. Gino Suarez, Acuna, Wilyer Abreu, who is having an amazing season so far. I mean, it's also like those all-star teams assembled for playing for something meaningful. It's also that it's really good for baseball.
Yeah, and I think I like how you pointed that out. I think something that to fans in America, they watch Major League Baseball, but it doesn't necessarily click to them always of how many guys are from these certain countries. So when it gets to the World Baseball Classic, they're like, oh, the U.S., like, we have the best, baseball in the world. Like, the U.S. is going. Then you're like, well, if pretty much 50, if not, majority of these incredible players are not from the U.S. And that's what puts great perspectives is you see some of these teams and you look at the lineup and you're going, this is an all-star team. Like, this isn't just, they took a few major league players. In basketball, we see it where in the Olympics, you're like, okay, this, team has one or two guys from the NBA here and there. In baseball, it's 1 through 9. It's an all-star lineup. And you 100%. Get 5 or 6 of those teams in one tournament. That's what makes it so special. You bring in the fan hype, the atmosphere and all of them, the players caring, and then just the level of player that plays in it. There's nothing that compares to that.
Yeah, and you nailed it. And that's what makes baseball great, right? How global it's become and how many stars from many countries we have in Asia, even European players, or maybe if they were born there but raised in the U.S. or any other country. But that also helps. And I think Major League Baseball has done a good job trying to grow the game in other continents, and I think they're doing a pretty good job with that. And WBC is going to be huge for that as well. And yeah, I remember in 23 reading so many people on Twitter like, oh, this guy's Venezuelan, this guy's Dominican. Like, I would have never thought that he was from whatever country. And that's also, I would say, a really pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and the last one I would mention, Randy Arozarena, when he was playing for Mexico. Right? But so what did that do? People understood that, okay, people knew who Randy was if you were a baseball fan that watched the MLB, but you probably didn't know that much about Randy. And all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, who is this talented player?
Yeah.
And then Randy went from, okay, for the really who watched baseball closely to now Randy's name has gone international. Randy's name has grown in the U.S.
Grows to stardom.
And also for people to know his story, because he was born in Cuba, but because of how he got out of the island and he got to Mexico and got his residency in Mexico, and basically Mexico gave him another chance at life, basically. And that's why he plays for Team Mexico, by being so grateful with the country. And he was able to put on that show in the whole tournament. And then obviously we saw the robbery in that game against Puerto Rico, and then the arms and everything. But yeah, and that's also a good part of the tournament, is that you get to know so many stories like that. And also Freddie Freeman playing for Team Canada in honor of his mother, for example. So yeah, those are the things that this tournament brings you that makes you really excited about it.
There's so many different reasons why you can love it, besides just the product on the field and the amount of players that hopefully will continue to be involved, but the other little messages or other opportunities that it brings to fruition or brings to people's minds. And in this case, the stories and why people do this and why the game matters so much to not just the people that you might think are a fan of the Baltimore Orioles, the Marlins, the Phillies. How about for the fans that are all across the world that you don't get to hear from? That's what's great about the World Baseball Classic. Daniel, before, is there anything else specifically on your mind? I mean, besides that Vladdy's staying put, we didn't have a chance to really talk about that, but we had Mark Shapiro on, and they said that they were optimistic about keeping him.
Yeah.
Yes, they were right.
Yeah,
they were. And I mean, why wouldn't they, right? I think it's the best match for both parts. Vladdy basically grew up in Canada. Obviously, that's where he got his first connection, and that's where he fell in love with baseball. And it means a lot to him to be there, because that team has basically gave him everything over the years. So, and the Blue Jays need that franchise player after missing on so many guys for years now. We know they were high on Freddie, Corbin Burnes, Mike Fried, you name it, Yamamoto, etc. Having finally not landing somebody because he was already there, but he's one of the game's biggest stars, was the best move possible to know what you're going to count on for the next decade and a half. And with that, you can build around and have the better or the best possible product, knowing what you're going against, but also who's on your side for so many years. So yeah, I really like the move. Not surprised that they tried so hard to keep him, because if you let the guy have a season like the one he had last year, or even a better one, they were for sure maybe gonna miss him in next year's free agency, like 100%. You would have seen Boston or New York, either New York team, or I don't know, maybe other team on the West Coast, the Giants, let's say, maybe trying something for Vladdy. So yeah, it was the best possible move.
It was. And I know when we talked to Mark Shapiro about it, the Blue Jays president CEO of the team, it was, he has an opportunity to be the greatest position player in Blue Jays history.
100%.
He has a way to then, now we don't see this very often anymore, where a player could be a lifer with just one team. Jackson Merrill's a young player. He signed a big extension. But for Vlad, the 14-year deal, it looks like, barring any type of trade, he's going to be a Toronto Blue Jay for the entirety of his career. So it's a great thing to see. Daniel, before we let you get out of here, anything else that's going on with El Extra Base? I know you had that interview with Paul Skeens right when they were down in Miami, which was amazing. Anything else you guys got cooking up?
Yeah, I mean, we're still doing our thing here, obviously preparing now. You're going to see in El Extra Base a lot of international coverage now with the pools announced and the date for WBC. We start preparing that coverage, not when the tournament starts in March or the weeks before. We start preparing that, long time before. So you're going to see a lot of that in El Extra Base, but obviously many of the major league coverage as well that we're doing down here in Miami or any other cities. You're going to see us at the All-Star game in the postseason World Series as well. So yeah, you can follow at El Extra Base and visit elextrabase.com.
Well, perfect. And they can follow you as well on is it at D Alvarez or at Daniel?
At Daniel Alvarez EE. EE stands for El Extra Base.
In case everyone didn't know. If you didn't know, now you know. And also, because I've been a little bit under the weather. We were supposed to have Kyle back here cooking. So when you come back on Wednesdays, we'll have Kyle cooking again. You'll see him here, and we still gotta get our Miami staple.
The Cuban sandwich we said that we were gonna have.
We need. Well, hey, Daniel, appreciate you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Daniel Alvarez-Montes, everybody.
I'm so fired up for World Baseball Classic right now.
I am ecstatic about it.
Talking about that got me so excited for just next year, because it genuinely is what the NHL did this year was incredible, and I think that's just something that every year is going to be this just needs to be something that is happening more, because there are so many freaking talented players from all across the world, where NHL buying into it. Obviously, baseball's been doing it for a little bit. I feel like it's gotten more popular over the last 2 or 3 times, kind of going back to when the Adam Jones, robbing Manny. It feels like that was one of the big years where people were like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of fun. We got all of our best players over there. I agree with what he said. Would love to see the pitchers. I know teams especially are very weary of pitchers going over there in the middle of spring training. But if we want to see baseball continue to be this international game and growing, like we talked about with Randy Arozarena, guys like that, it is a way for stardom to start.
And we're talking about growing the game, talking about interest, talking about seeing the game with passion. When you put great players that invest their time on a world stage, because that's what the Baseball Classic is the World Baseball Classic, you're going to see what we saw in previous years, specifically the last one, where the game, the intensity is all going to be there, and you're not going to be able to have that experience at any other time, not even for the World Series or not. Look, it's going to matter to your team if you're in the World Series. If you're in Baltimore and the Orioles are in the World Series, you're damn right that you're going to be pulling for the Orioles. But for these other fans, this is their country. They're all for one team. And I think that's what makes it so special and the game of baseball so beautiful. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We are live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 2:30-ish to 4:30. Obviously a little bit later start today because we had an exclusive sit down with Corbin Burnes right before we started the show today. And look, the Orioles are finishing up their series today in Arizona, roughly at 3:40 Eastern time, which is 12 minutes from right now. But why don't we start with that and then get into the Orioles injuries? Because obviously we know Zach Eflin's on the shelf and there's a lot of concerns, and we'll get into a panic meter. But I think one thing we wanted to have is to set the record straight, because it felt like yesterday, if you were on social media, and because of the clips that were coming out about Corbin Burnes' response about how many years that the Orioles were giving, that people were going to state that the Orioles didn't do enough. But the reality is, and you're hear from Corbin right now, he's going to the best situation possible. So, Zach, let's play that clip for him. Like you got the right opportunity going to Arizona. And I saw the clip of that, of people were throwing that out there about the numbers and what the Orioles offered. And look, at the end of the day, yes, of course, to be more in the discussion, you want it to be at a certain threshold. But if you were going to have the right opportunity, Arizona turned out with what they were giving you to be the right opportunity because of everything you just mentioned. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was always the door was always open to go back to Baltimore. Obviously, there were some other teams that were involved as well, but for the kind of the way we looked at the process was if Arizona was going to come in and they were going to have a fair price, and it was something that we felt was fair, it was going to be really tough to turn down. Just living here with the young kids, just for me, giving them the easiest life possible in this craziness of baseball, right? So when they kind of showed they were interested, I wouldn't say all the other negotiations got kicked to the back burner, but for me, my focus was like, okay, well, this is something that we can stay here, stay home. Obviously, Boris does a good job of keeping in contact with his other teams in case this didn't work out. But for us, as soon as I heard that they were interested, my attention was fully turned to that, just because that was for us the best situation possible.
When we found that Arizona was interested, the focus turned there, and that was going to be our best situation possible. So, look, I understand. And I think this is the conversation. You pay the guy, they're going to go there. We didn't want to press Corbin on the other teams, the San Francisco Giants, the Toronto Blue Jays, who were reportedly offering more than what the Diamondbacks offered. And then for the Orioles, if the offer is true, where it said the Orioles were giving 4 years, $180 million, that's $45 million a year, which would have been the highest average salary for a pitcher, if I'm not mistaken, which would have surpassed Max Scherzer's total of around 43. Look, the reality of the situation is that you're looking at things that are just even bigger than the game of baseball. And we've talked about this before. And yes, the Orioles could have matched that offer, Zach, but if Arizona had that offer out there, it seemed very clear where he was going to go. And that has nothing to do with the Orioles brass. And I know he said that the number of the years was that was the comment I think that everyone was getting their head wrapped around was, we're scratching our head on the only 4 years. Well, yeah, the Orioles only felt comfortable with giving 4 years, whether you agree with that or not. But if the Orioles had given 5 or 6, would that have changed the offer? Maybe. But to Corbin's words, he said, no, that my focus shifted as soon as Arizona gave me a price that I wanted. And I think that that's the part that we have to continue to acknowledge here. And for Corbin Burnes and that interview, we're going to drop the whole thing after the show so you guys can watch. We even mentioned about Zach, him pitching the All-Star game last year with his family, him waking up at home to be with his kids. That's a huge stress release for a player that is trying to go out there and pitch at the highest level. And he had nothing but good things to say about his time here in Baltimore. But
yeah, I mean, once the full interview's out, it's just very apparent. This was a family thing. Like, yeah, there was there a price where he would have went somewhere else? Yeah, but everyone has a price. It would have had to be borderline ridiculous, but it's one of those things where everything that he was talking about, you could tell when he was talking about it, he was just like, I just am happy that my kids get to be home. Like, he was traveling back so much last year in between starts, things like that. You could tell it was almost like relief of like, hey, I'm back. I can just, worry about baseball and not what's going on back home and stuff.
Yeah. And look, it's also a long season. We talked a little bit about his mindset. And one thing I think that people underestimate too, Zach, this is 2 straight years Corbin Burnes has been in a different place. One was he was traded right before, and he got off to a hot start with the Orioles. But this past year, we asked him about free agency as a whole, and that might give a great context. That might have been one of my favorite parts of the sit-down, Zach, was him explaining the process of free agency. And we'll play that. That will be out for you guys after this. So we will we'll let you guys be the judge of that. But it was interesting to hear that this wasn't a process that was, he was looking forward to. We actually just sat down with a legend of the game as well that, we're got to figure out when we're dropping that. And he's a very high-profile player. He was one of the best players when he played. Hit over 400 home runs in the big leagues. And he hated the free agency process. Hated it. Can't wait for that one. That was a great one today, by the way. Can't drop him. But all I can say is he does have Baltimore ties. So we'll leave it at that. So, again, if you are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 2:30 to 4:30, typically. So that's kind of where we are at. And you know what? I'm going to answer. I'm going to look at a couple things here on certain things. And Cube, maybe this is a part of first I want to talk about, saying about Corbin Burnes not pitching well. I wanted to say this yesterday when it came to players and starting the season, especially pitching wise. Okay. I said on Twitter the other day, you can't judge what players are going to be within the first month of the season. You just can't. Because if you did that, Aaron Judge would have been one of the worst players in baseball last year.
Yeah.
He had a horrendous month of April. How about Rafael Devers starting off, 0 for 21 with 15 Ks? Starting to pick it up now, right, Zach?
A little bit. I think he's like batting like 400 over his past like 6 games. So, picking it up a little bit.
And then the other part of it is for pitchers. Not everyone's going to get out of the gate quickly. And it's so great if you can do all of that. If we look around baseball as a whole right now, you would love to say that your team is going to get out there in front and put yourself in a good position, right? The Orioles, they're sitting at 5-7 going into this game on Wednesday afternoon. Well, the team that's leading the AL East right now is 7-5. And that's the Toronto Blue Jays. Heck, the Minnesota Twins that were favored by Vegas to win the division, they're 3-8. Cleveland's 4-6. You know, you want to go to the other side of things. How about the Los Angeles Angels are 7-3? Now, are you buying that they're going to be the team that wins the AL West? I'm not yet, but could they be? Sure. The Houston Astros are 5-6, right? So we're getting the point here that I'm trying to make. So many things can happen here as time goes on. You hope you can get off to a good start, but we're really not going to know a lot about players and what they're going to do until we get past the first month and usually get into June, if we're being completely honest. Now, are there concerns? Are there things you got to monitor? Like I know with people going, well, Charlie Morton, when are we going to have that really quality start? Charlie had his best outing yesterday. Wasn't his best outing, but it was his best so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a little bit more concern. He's a little bit older, right? Guy like Corbin Burnes, I don't worry about because if he's healthy, stats and his track record's proven he's going to figure it out. The Orioles, the question mark is, well, who do they have? Because now you have Zach Eflin out. And that was the one guy. This one hurts, Zach.
Yeah.
This freaking hurts. And we're going to talk about a panic meter. This is where things for a team can get dicey when you have these injuries early. Again, I'm going to reemphasize, we're not going to know about what it's going to be moving forward. We don't know what the Orioles are going to be, but injuries can very well derail you, and the Orioles got a lot of them. And the one guy of this staff that you could not have go down was Zach Eflin, given the circumstances. And he actually was off to the best start so far. He was dealing in that game in Arizona too. So, Zach, I guess I'll ask you then first. If we're having a panic meter on your eyes, 1 to 10, on this Orioles pitching staff, where do you sit?
Are we going whole pitching staff or starting staff?
It's a very
because
interesting point.
Bullpen has been.
Maybe I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah.
Let's go whole staff.
Whole staff, I'm going to put it at a 5. Not very panicked because simply of how the bullpen's pitching. The only thing that I'm panicked about is getting to the bullpen or guys not going deep enough to where the bullpen then gets taxed and we start seeing this incredible start from the bullpen slowly start to dip off in performance. Whole staff, I'm going to say not that concerned because I've seen the bullpen, and that starters, I'm going to put it at an 8 because it's not that I don't trust the guys they have. It's not that I don't think that guys coming back, Grayson, Eflin, all that. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when it comes. It's from the fact of month and a half ago, we were talking about, okay, the Orioles have great depth at the starting pitching position, and you felt like they were built well to win in the regular season because of the depth, because of the experience. They have guys that can find ways to win. Well, then Grayson goes down, then Eflin goes down. So now you're down your 1-2. Already in a staff that you really kind of felt weird about not having a 1. Those were the 2 guys. If you would have before the season said there's 2 guys on the pitching staff they can't afford to have miss a lot of time, it would have been Eflin and Rodriguez. So in that aspect, I am concerned. I'm very concerned in just what the next move is going to be, because now a guy like Brandon Young, he has to step up until Gibson's ready. Now Kyle Gibson goes from a luxury to, okay, now it's a necessity. He has to take that 5 spot and produce. It just all of a sudden it turned a lot of the, hey, this is a good situation to have because of the depth and everything, and they can mix and match guys, kind of play it in that way, because you're going to have to use, I think Ben McDonald said about 11 starters a year, team's average. So you're going to have guys miss time, have to have guys pitch here and there. And you felt good about the Orioles' position there with how much depth they had. You felt like they had an abundance of those mid 3 guys, those Dean Kramers, the Charlie Mortons, although I think he's more closer to a 4 or 5 at this point in his career. You had solid guys, especially when you added in Grayson and Eflin. With them going down, it suddenly turns into, okay, you need guys to step up. It went from Cade Povich, oh, you're doing pretty well to start. you're getting your feet underneath you. Hey, now we need you to win games. It's no longer hey, this is the luxury of, the Orioles are winning all this. This is it. You need Povich, you need Brandon Young now. These young guys where it went from, hey, this is good experience to them, to now you're sitting back and you're going, oh crap. Hey, we need you to win. We need you to help this team on April 9th instead of we were hoping to maybe see this issue maybe late June, maybe once guys have gotten back, all that. So it just overall, that's my biggest concern is not necessarily, what if Eflin's misses a lot of time, all that. It's that now the depth has kind of been exposed and in a lot of ways, now it's put up or shut up for some of these young guys. And that's an unfortunate situation for them. It's sink or swim, for Povich and for Brandon Young and these whatever young guys now come up. They don't have the luxury of being able to fail and being like, hey, this is a time to get your feet underneath you. It's, hey, you're now the number 4 starter. You're now the number 3 starter if you're Cade Povich. So that's my biggest concern overall for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think when you lose your veterans to what you were saying there, to alluding to, it puts pressure on players that are trying to then figure out their footing in the big leagues. So in this case, could things turn out to be okay? Sure. Right. I would say in the case where I'm just concerned, I would say on the starting staff, I would go a little bit lower on saying a 6 on the staff. I got no concern with the bullpen. I'll explain that in a second. It's mainly because I don't know if these injuries keep adding up, or you lose Eflin for a longer period of time, you're banking that Povich is going to have to ascend his game, and that's a little bit more pressure on himself. I think Dean's going to come around. I think Charlie Morton is going to come around here, and I think it's close. I really do. But could it never fully come to fruition? There's that possibility, but I'm going to trust it as long as he's healthy, that he's going to be able to figure it out. But no Eflin, no Grayson, your 2 best arms on the staff that you're banking on going to the season, they're down. That puts pressure. But one thing that I do want to remind people of, in 2023, the Orioles' strength wasn't their starting staff. And even in 2022, it wasn't. The reason why the Orioles stayed in so many games was because their bullpen was lights out. Their offense then was able to come back and win games. The Orioles were the best at comeback victories in 2023. And they were also one of the top teams in one-run games. I think the bigger part for me, Zach, is execution overall as a team than with the pitching staff. I think the execution, they haven't done and played a complete game the way that they've hoped to all the time. But you see that their offense can fire with the best of them. Their bullpen, like Felix Bautista has one of their quote-unquote worst ERAs on their actual active bullpen rosters. And I'm not worried about Felix at all. I think he's going to get comfortable and he's going to get rolling. How about Sir Anthony Dominguez? Everyone was worried about him.
Everyone.
Because of the spring. Also, Corbin Burnes had a terrible spring last year, but I digress. Dominguez is off to a great start. This bullpen is off to a great start. Sagano, great second outing. He, to me right now, the X factor, there's more pressure on Sagano now to be that guy.
Yeah, yes. And that's where I'm talking about, where it's the effects that maybe you aren't immediate. I'm like, yeah, it sucks that Eflin's not going to pitch. It sucks that Grayson can't pitch right now. But it's now Sagano went from, hey, this is the wild card. Hey, if whatever it may be, if Sagano pitches like we think he should, then it's a massive plus. Now it's almost a necessity. Now you're like you said, now it's on Sagano to be like, hey, I have to be that kind of 1-2 instead of maybe easing into it. Maybe you get to the point where it's like he's producing, but it's not to the point of he has to, especially immediately while he's he's in a new country. He's playing, against new competition. You would like for him to have that kind of grace period to ease into it all. But after that, now you're sitting there going, okay, sorry, Toyuki, you went from, hey, get your feet underneath you. Hey, learn the ropes, all this, focus on what you got to do, to now, unfortunately, in a big game, obviously we are 5 months away from the playoffs. But if it was game 1 tomorrow, it's like, okay, is Tomo the guy that you would have to send out there because he has the most experience in baseball overall, stuff like that. He's put up the best stats. It's just an interesting situation where it puts pressure on guys that they didn't necessarily need that pressure on them.
No. And again, you go back to it. Every team's going to talk about why you like veterans or having guys that are dependable. And that's why I talk about Cedric Mullins all the time, Zach. It's not that I'm saying that Cedric's the best center fielder out there in the game. But do I think Cedric's a very damn good player? Yes. Why? He impacts the game in so many different ways. If he's not hitting, which people go, well, hey, he doesn't hit this Ryan or gets on base. Well, some guys have no other value if they don't do that. Cedric does. When he's not in center field, it can be pretty noticeable, can it, Zach?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So you're talking about a guy that can handle that and make an impact on the base pass, at the plate, in the outfield. Oh, and by the way, though, you don't have to worry about him. He's going to be okay mentally. He's going to figure it out. It might be some slumps. There might be some periods, but you don't have to worry about Cedric's demeanor and learning how to be a big league player. He already knows how to do that. Other guys are trying to figure that out. So the Orioles are in a position right now where they are just going to have to continue to weather the storm. To be quite honest, though, Zach, I'd rather this stuff happen right now. I hope that this is the end of all of it. I hope while every team's trying to get their feet wet, that this could be a time for Baltimore to continue to ride out the wave. Ride out till you get some of those reinforcements back. But Zach Eflin, make no mistake, if one that is probably the biggest bummer injury, it is going to be Zach Eflin. And actually, Yonyi just texted me. I think we're going to try to get him at 4:15 to talk about this lat strain. So if you guys are staying around here, we will be talking with Yonyi. I believe I'm texting him right now, actually. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday here, right here on YouTube. And it's out on the Spotify, Apple platforms, and on X. And by the way, it's a good time to continue to remind you guys to stay with it and stay fit. And actually, it's a good time to continue to remind you guys, if you are looking to stay with it and stay fit and have so many other ways of possibilities to enjoy yourself, we're big on our community, right? That's why for us, we partnered with, and I'm trying to pull it back up. Can I do it quickly, Zach?
No.
Over or under 5 seconds?
Over.
Oh, watch out. 5 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Merit Clubs. See, I told you I could do it in under 5 seconds. But Merit Clubs, official sponsor of the Ryan Ripken Show, and we have a lot of different ways to give back to the community. If you are looking to be a part of a community or get with it, get fit, and try to make a difference, we're going to give you that chance. And right now, I'm going to pull up the code for you guys that if you click on the code for this Ryan Ripken Show link, you'll have a chance to get a month, not 2 weeks, Zach, 1 month free at Merit Clubs. You just sign up, you get a month free, and it's on us. Because again, people helping people, that's what we're about right here. And I'm excited about the future there with Merit Clubs. And I'll be honest, if I was feeling a little bit better today, Zach, in general, I might get up and do some fitness. But as we found out there yesterday, your guy was hurting quite a bit. Your guy was going through it yesterday. So I'm not going to work out too much, but there's the link right there. meritclubs.com/Ryan-Ripken/. You click on that link, you put in the information, free 30 days on us. And I got to tell you, Zach, I went over there today, and we have a lot of fun things we have planned.
A lot of fun.
And I pray for Kevin.
Someone's got to do it. I'm glad we have Kevin to do it.
Well, and all of us here, but it should be a great time. So appreciate Merit Clubs for all the support here as we get into the rest of this spring and summer season. And we'll see also how your flexibility is, Zach, but that's for a different time. All right. So the other part here, I'm seeing a lot of things about lineups, about teams.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that I think we needed to discuss. The lineups. I know that that's probably the biggest conversation in baseball when it comes to, okay, well, how do you get in a rhythm? Well, you need the at-bats. Well, if you're on the bench, you can't really get that rhythm. The Orioles, make no mistake, fair to say, Zach, they have shuffled in quite a lot of different
Very much so.
Rotations of lineups.
Yeah, I believe they have officially gone new lineup every single game. So obviously that can be misleading a little bit because you had Cowser the first 3 games, and then obviously Gunnar shows up, so all those lineups are automatically going to be different. It is just, I know people are worried about the consistency and batters not getting, I guess, into a rhythm. And we talked about this. We talked about with Corbin Burnes earlier today with the getting into kind of some sort of rhythm, some sort of routine. Players are creatures of habit. Get in the routine, get comfortable. And right now, I think it is a little tougher when one day you're playing left field and batting third, and then the next day you're at first and batting sixth, and then the next day you're DHing and batting second, and then you're Westberg and you're playing 3 different positions, and obviously the injuries have been part of it, part of the reason. But overall, it has been just kind of it has been frustrating because you feel like when a lineup works, you're like, okay, let's do that again. And that's a completely different group in the next day. I know the Jackson Holiday 3-hit game followed by him on the bench was, getting people upset. Same sort of thing with Heston a few days ago. So that's the one part that I think is frustrating for fans, is especially these young guys. You want to see them get their opportunities.
Yeah, the goal, which, again, explaining why things are the way that they are. With young players, you want to try to protect them, right? In this case, when there's a tough lefty, they're saying, all right, well, with Jackson or even for Heston or whoever the matchups may be, we want to try to protect them. And also the logic is, and Brandon Hyde alluded to this, Zach, a few days ago, that they brought in these bats. They were brought in to have the opportunities to prove that they can be that. And is it fair to say, hey, no, you can't do that after 1 game or 2 games? No, that's not fair. That's the logic behind it. So you got to give it some runway. It's better earlier in the season. But one thing that's very hard, at least for me, Zach, personally, is if a guy is seeing the ball really well, it don't matter if he's a lefty or a righty. If he's swinging it well, I want to see him back out there. Now, other things that people might not know, some of these guys might already have scheduled rest days thrown in there. And that's not the player's choice. And that sometimes it's not even the manager's choice, or it's the combination of the front office and the manager saying, hey, for load management or trying to keep guys preserved, we are giving them days off. And even though it might not make sense at the time, that's the thought process behind it, Zach. Like, I think that's the part where I think when we saw with like Jordan Westberg earlier, they said they were worried about his back. They probably already had this plan going into that game. Cedric Mullins swinging the bat well. Cedric wanted to try to give him a day. That was already built in to that. So whether you agree with that or not, I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's the part of it. But personally, when you're swinging the bat well, like Ryan O'Hearn, if O'Hearn's got 2 or 3 really good at bats and there's a lefty on the bump still, I'd still give my chances with Ryan O'Hearn. Why? In that day, in that moment, he's seeing the ball really well. Yeah, there's no guarantee someone off the bench is going to be seeing it the way that he is.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of what got people upset about the Cedric thing, is that he was swinging a hot bat. He's probably been one of the more consistent Orioles so far this season. And then he gets sat against the lefty that he's 4 for 9 career off of, I think, with a jack. And you're like, okay, maybe not the lefty to sit him against. And I think I understand hey, early in the season, we have off days planned out. That's going to happen. But it is, I think, frustrating from a fan perspective when you get a guy, especially with how inconsistent this offense has been throughout the season. When you get a guy who is hot, he's been probably your most consistent player so far this year with Cedric Mullins. He's got a great matchup, and then you bench him. Even though it's a game, you bench him and you sit back and you're like, well, that's not necessarily what we were hoping to see. That we were hoping that, if you got a guy, we're trying to find some rhythm as a team. Let's let our hottest batters bat. That's why I think was the issue that one day when they sat Seti, Kerstead, and Holiday, when arguably the game before, that was your offense. Those were the guys that kept it going, kept the line going. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration came from, was the fact that you were sitting there going, hey, these guys are swinging a hot bat. They've got the, they're in this groove. Let them continue to build off of it, especially for Holiday. I've said a million times between this and Kevin and Zach React, if they're trying to get him work against lefties, but not lefties that are quote unquote dominant, like a Garrett Crochet. Bubic is a reverse splits guy. Coming off a 3-hit game, I felt like that was the perfect opportunity to give him a lefty that he can handle. But I think that's where the most of the frustration from fans is coming from, is you sit back and you're like, hey, these guys are hitting well. Let's keep this offensive thing rolling. And then the next day, it's a completely different lineup.
Yeah. And again, the earlier season, you probably going to even see more shuffling. But personally, that's just always how it's been. When a guy's seeing it well, you want to ride it out as much as you can. That's just my personal belief. And then if they're struggling, you protect them a little bit more. That's where I think it starts and it should end. But one thing I want to give credit where credit's due is that the Orioles and Brandon Hyde and the staff, they've been doing this for years, and they've done a very good job, like numbers wise, statistically, of pitch hitting guys and putting them in situations. The Orioles are near the top at success pinch hitting, right? Like they have done a good job of that. And I do think with all the faults that we look at, people do forget that the Orioles have been in the playoffs the last 2 years. Despite all of the parts that people want to look at in the negativities, they still have some of the most wins in baseball over the last 2 years. And we wouldn't be having these conversations, Zach, if the Orioles had won a playoff series. Because that's where all this stems back to. If they win a playoff series, then shirts and pants, we are not worried about the injuries right now, or that they're 5-7. We're thinking about, okay, they just need to get right. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to go on and win games. That's what we're going to be talking about. But instead, we're not. And that's why we are here. Only 12 games in, though, Zach, and technically now 13, with 149 left on the docket. A lot more to discuss. So if you are new to the channel, though, once again, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. Do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And as we look back on Tuesday then and some of the homer cards, we might as well take a quick trip up to our friends at Charlestown Races, Hollywood Casino up in West Virginia. When I move, you move.
Like that.
So, Zach, I heard you had a couple home run dinger cards. Did those go through for you yesterday?
No, they did not. Gunnar and Alex Bregman did not. Alex got a fly out to left field. I was honestly just hoping he'd hit it over the wall, but the one game Alex Bregman decides to take off in his Red Sox career so far. I'll take that. That's on me.
So you were 0 for 2.
Yeah, yesterday we went 0 for 2. Not the best. Although I will say full transparency, didn't end up betting Gunnar after I saw I was going to on the show. So 0 for 1, 0 for 2 in ideas.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got cold feet.
Yeah, and actually it was funny enough, it was a mistake because I meant to bet it, and during the game I realized I did not have it and kind of was regretting it because I felt like he was Gunnar. Even when he's making contact right now, every single ball is like 110 off the bat. So his first pitch of the game last night was like 108 mile an hour ground ball to second, at him. So it happens, but Gunnar's just hitting the cover off the ball. So I went with the hot bat there. I thought maybe the first one would go for Gunnar last night, but nothing yet. Tyler O'Neill in field single because biceps can also do that.
Biceps can do a lot here. Also, Tyler O'Neill off to a great start in his Orioles career here. And also, if you want to follow Zach's advice, or he might back out on you, but if you do, ESPN Bet has a promotion going through the end of April where you put down $10, you get $100 back in bonus bets. That's with ESPN Bet, and that's with our friends at Hollywood Casino up at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Boom. Also, need to go back up and have their sushi. They have the one restaurant in there, and I'm blanking on the name, but I saw the Virginia's for Grubbers guys eat there, and I am starving now for sushi. And I even told Lindsay there, I said, that's priority number one. We can do a show up there, but I need to go get sushi. And I want to just sit there and eat like 5 or 6 rolls. Huge, huge sushi guy. And guys, by the way, we did get confirmation. Yonyi with True Sports Physical Therapy is going to join us. And for those that have followed the Ryan Ripken Show over the last year, Yonyi is our PT sports expert right there. And he was great, spot on with calling the injuries last year and the time frames. Unfortunately. And last year we talked about Grayson Rodriguez. Before he was being shut down, we both talked about how he probably wasn't going to pitch again at the end of the year. So Yonyi knows his stuff. So he is going to be joining us here at 4:15 to talk about the recent injury to Zach Eflin, to kind of talk about what does it really mean to have a low lat strain and how quickly can you come back from that? I'm going to be honest, probably not going to like the answer.
I already know I'm not going to like the answer. I hate how right Yonyi is all the time. It's just, he tells us what we don't want to hear, and then he nails the prediction every time. It's kind of, maybe we should just have him like lie to us. Be like, no, it's actually great. Maybe we'll see if that just works. But like you said, I have a feeling his diagnosis is not going to be what we want to hear, or what Oriole fans are hoping to hear that want to see Zach Eflin pitch in the next 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. And we also are going to make sure we go down onto the farm here in the future, because those are conversations that people want to know more about Zach. And actually down on the farm, which ironically, if you don't know now, you know, Kyle Gibson is making his rehab start tomorrow for the Norfolk Tides. And guess who he is facing off against, Zach?
Who?
Spencer Strider is rehab starting for the Gwinnett Stripers. Strider versus Gibson.
Yeah.
We got to get our guy David Hall back on the
call
God,
here. Have to.
We can talk about what's been happening down there with some guys like Kobe Mayo and Sam Basayo, to name a few. You need to take a deep breath. Should I talk about what happened yesterday?
Yeah, I think we should. What a just last second random, just we had to call an audible literally as we were going live, you know?
Yeah, that was tough. So for those yesterday, I apologize. I was here. I was ready to rock and roll. And I don't know if I ate something wrong, Zach. Something very much disagreed with my system. And I had to be silent and near a bathroom for 5 hours yesterday. And it was literally right as we hit the countdown.
Yeah, it was, because the original plan was, it was like, okay, I'm going to, start the countdown. You would just come run back. And then it was pretty quick. That was like, oh, this is sticking around for a minute.
Dude, that sucked. I haven't felt like that in about 20 years. And I don't know what it was. I went to a wedding. One of my best friends got married in Bermuda. As you can tell, I got a little base tan. If you didn't know, now you know. And I felt fine, got back. Everything was good. And then literally right before we started, something just hit the system. And I'm good now. My energy feels back, Zach. I feel like I'm ready to rock and roll. But there was a 5 or 6 hour period yesterday where I couldn't even talk. Zach and Kevin were walking out of the studio yesterday, and I couldn't even say a word. I would be in mid-sentence or try to talk to them, and I just walked into a dark room.
Yeah.
To the abyss. So that was.
Yeah, that was. We got done. We got done. Audibles, and then we kept it rolling.
I appreciate you stepping up. I appreciate that. I am. Maybe I'm still feeling a little bit worse than I thought. And you did I miss you doing your history, browsing history yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday was Chase Dolander talking about how he found out he was actually getting called up to the Rockies 10 minutes before they told him, because he got an email confirming his stay at a hotel in Denver.
That's electric.
Yeah, and he was like, he literally said, he was like, I appreciate the hitting coach for going along with it, and changing the subject. Cause I guess when he walked in, he was like, hey, did I? And they're like, all right, hey, no, let's go over your pitch stuff. So that was one of those moments where it's just a funny baseball thing where we talk about just baseball stories. That's ones that they'll always go down just casually sitting there. You're like, okay, getting ready for his game. And then it's like, why is this hotel in Denver telling me they're excited for my stay? And 10 minutes later, it was like, hey, you are needed in the manager's office. And he was like, I had a pretty good idea of what was happening.
Yeah, I think they kind of gave away the secret right there.
A little bit.
But I think that's still great. Hey, you know what? They're making sure their logistics are all set in stone. I'd love to know if I'm getting to the bigs, I got a hotel room.
Yeah. You know, that probably did ease his nerves as he immediately knew where he was staying.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to be like, oh, well, how am I going to do? You know, what's going on there? He immediately was like, all right.
Oh, gosh. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And actually, Brooks, I just saw this. I didn't realize that. Yes.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to Vicky Brick. I didn't see all the news. May she rest in peace. Always realize that life's fragile, everyone. You never really know what can happen. And yeah, very sad news. To the people that are wondering about with me, yes, it does sound like I had some sort of food poisoning yesterday. But I can't figure out what it could have been, Zach. I really couldn't have figured out what it could have been, to say the least. Maybe it was an apple.
I don't think the apple was going to do that. But I don't think it was the apple.
It wasn't the apple? Nah, it's okay. You know what? I got to stretch. Yeah, I was on the I was day to day yesterday.
And obviously with Corbin and everything, we had a pretty big day today. So we had to have you rest up to make sure we were on full go for this one. You know.
Yeah, we are full go because we had an interview before that, which that might be one of our best legend interviews we have coming out as well.
He was fantastic.
And we got another big guest tomorrow, actually, at 3 p.m. So the guests keep coming here on the Ryan Ripken Show. We're having a great little time here. We had Daniel Alvarez-Montes join us earlier from El Extra Base. We sat down with Corbin Burnes right before the show. We have Dr. Yonyi. I think I see people calling him Dr. Yonyi. I kind of like that. Dr. Yonyi is going to join us here in about 6 minutes to talk about the previous injuries here with the Baltimore Orioles and see kind of what the timelines could be. And then we'll probably wrap it on up, Zach, because we've had a long day, long show.
Yeah.
But that is how we're moving. When I move, you move.
Just like that.
And also we had to change our procedure today. The Iron Rooster was coming in, but because of my stomach, we postponed today.
Yeah, Kyle was telling me about what he had prepared, and I think that was for the best. That you're with how you're feeling right now. We didn't take a trip to I won't give away what he's making. But.
Yeah, you don't want to give away, but it would have been something that I would have loved, but my body no chance would have processed that at this point in time. So we'll have that, and we're going to start our cocktail hour soon, brought to you by Deep Eddy Vodka. So we got a lot of fun things here planned, and as we continue to move on. And tomorrow, Joe, that Collins, I think, could be a good day tomorrow. I'm trying to look at the schedule. What do we have tomorrow?
And Collins will be on Kevin and Zach React as well. So
I think we can do Collins tomorrow. We got one guest planned for tomorrow, and he's actually part of the game for a while. I guess for those that are still watching, Omar Vizquel is going to join us tomorrow. So if you remember Omar, considered one of the best defensive players at his time when he played and even in the history of the game, he's going to join us tomorrow to talk a little ball and what's been going on with him and what he has going on specifically down with Venezuela. So excited about that. And also maybe it'd be a good time to have a couple different breakdowns that we can discuss here as we move forward. That was the one thing that I missed yesterday, Zach, was the breakdowns. I wanted to do one with Pitching Ninja.
Yeah.
Had it kind of planned.
Yeah. And he was great talking about Paul Skeens and just Sasaki, Sagano, all that. He was fantastic. Would love to have him back on again for the breakdown and everything, because he talk about just a wealth of knowledge, just somebody who views the game so much differently than just like kind of the average person, especially pitching wise. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Whew. You know what I was saying? I felt like I was getting over the hump. I don't know if I'm over it yet. But that's okay. You know what I just realized down here, Zach? I got cotton candy from when we did the fries and cotton candy with Kyle the week before.
God, I love it.
This is definitely not going to be eaten at this moment in time. And I'm seeing as we talk about this, Dino gets out of it. The O's need a big game out of Dean today. No doubt they need a big game out of him, especially given all of the injuries. And Dean actually is the guy that they're going to have to count on big time. We're talking about another X factor that can really change how the Orioles look. Dean Kramer is a big part of that as well. Ooh. And now I was looking, you know what I also didn't realize? We're going to talk about it more tomorrow as kind of our things going into the weekend, the Masters.
Yeah.
It's Masters week.
Yeah, I already have a few bets in.
Oh, you already do?
Mm-hmm. I've got Rory winning the first round. That's mine. I think he's going to come out hot. I also just have Max Homa. I laddered him finishing top 40, top 20, top 10 and winning. Max Homa winning, $2 pays out $700. So I was like, might as well. Oh yeah, and this Ovi did something the other day, or I think something, maybe something casual.
Yeah, or might try to be able to get someone that was there from that game specifically to come on here in the future. Might have been on the call for that game.
Could be fun.
It could be fun. I mean, hey, Joe, Masters, look, it's the Masters. I'm saying our lane, we talk about a lot of different shit. I don't know. We talk a lot of baseball and we talk football, but yeah, I'm not saying I know all the Masters, but do you watch the Masters when it comes on? I do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to. I'm a avid, the Masters is the one tournament I'll watch. I guess the majors I'll tune in, especially Sunday if it's close. But Masters, that's the one I'm going to be tuned in probably tomorrow, just because I need Rory to win. But after that, I'll probably tune into like Saturday, Sunday, see how the bets are looking.
Yeah, you're always around the bets. A couple news and notes around the league as we get ready for Yonyi to join us. If you guys missed it earlier in baseball, Justin Steele, Cubs ace, a lot of guys that they wanted the Orioles to trade for, just like it seems like any starting ace. He's on the 15-day IL with left elbow tendonitis right now. So another big name marquee pitcher is going to be missing time. I had some other note in here. Jackson Merrill is going on the IL with a hamstring strain. So that's unfortunate as well. So, injuries piling up a little bit. Obviously, it feels worse in Baltimore. And since we were talking about food poisoning, might as well bring up that Cody Bellinger was scratched the other day.
The worst part of that is he got food poisoning, but he posted what he got. Like, you could tell the second he what he got from, because he posted round 2 of the buffalo wings that he ate that ended up giving him food poisoning. So we found the culprit. It's like before first opening day, Tyler Beebe.
It's going to Chipotle?
Yeah, Chipotle eats Chipotle after before every start, and then suddenly he was late scratch because of something he ate, and everyone's like, I think we knew what he ate.
Yep. Chipotle. And then in this case for Cody Bellinger is eating wings. Bad wings.
I was going to say, those are some bold choices, I feel like, before a game. Chipotle, it depends on how far before you're eating it. If he's eating that like 4 hours, 3-4 hours beforehand, that makes sense. But I'm trying to think of how long beforehand you eat a Chipotle burrito. How long until I feel like that would not feel like it's heavy sitting in your stomach while pitching.
Everyone's different. Doesn't Paul Skeens eat chicken Alfredo or something?
Yeah, there's some incredible pregame. We might have to start doing that, asking some of these pitchers pregame meals.
We should. We definitely should. That is now I'm looking at some of the food options. I still am a little bit queasy. I'm a big coffee guy. I couldn't have any coffee today. I couldn't even sniff it. And it wasn't even food. You know what I mean? Couldn't even sniff it. But I've also, the last time I had food poisoning, like that I truly could remember, was about 20 years ago. That's what I was alluding to. Mm-hmm. I had Outback baby back ribs. And that was one of the most violently ill moments I had ever had in my life. That was for 24 hours straight, just vicious. And I couldn't eat ribs for years, Zach. Years. Barbecue sauce. I had trouble eating anything that had barbecue sauce on it. It really did a number on me. But Ryan, we grew, we evolved, and here we are today. Back at it. I made my way back into the studio, even though I was miserable in a puddle for a good 6 hours yesterday. So you can get by all of that. And also, I wanted to mention one thing as we wait for our guest here. If you guys are watching us here on YouTube or X, still ask that you look at what we have on our other social platforms. Instagram has been hot overall here, specifically on a lot of our content, and we put out a ton. And why I'm saying it's hot, we're just putting out a whole lot. So if you want to see more of the short form, the reels, we are pushing things out there constantly. So check out what's going on Instagram. Obviously follow on X as well at the Ryan Ripken Show, YouTube as well at Ryan Ripken Media, and at Kevin and Zach Reacts here as well. You okay over there, Zach?
Yeah, I'm checking in Ramon Arias infield single. Then we got Holiday at the dish now. So just was checking in on how the game's going. Birds down 1-0. But Dean's been working out of some trouble. He's been doing his thing. Orioles continue to hit into the double play, but you knew they weren't going to repeat the fewest amount of double plays in league history back-to-back years. So it's kind of, it's tough.
Tough for the program. And if we're around baseball a little bit right now, I got to say that whole NL West has been really fun to watch. Very fun to watch. They're kind of rolling right now. The San Diego Cheatses have been playing some pretty good baseball.
Been playing some really good ball. And that's what kind of sucks is that they're not getting talked about because, the Dodgers are struggling with the Nationals right now, but past two games. But San Diego's not getting any love that the Dodgers are getting, and they've been playing arguably just as well. If not, let's look. Last few games, I feel like they've been the team. They're 9-3, officially ahead of the Dodgers. So even the Giants 8-3. This team, the Diamondbacks 6-6. That's going to be a very interesting division. Because you only got 3 wild card spots, and 3 might be coming out of the NL West. If you think the Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Giants, and Padres, you would think probably 2 of those, if not 3 to 4, get into the playoffs. So it's going to be a very competitive division, I think, for a full 162.
Oh, for sure. The NL West is going to be one of the most exciting divisions to watch. And again, the Diamondbacks are no slouches either. Overall, you're looking at a very, very good division. And I would say, it's also a very competitive one. It's been like that for decades, specifically this past decade. That's the AL East. It's not getting any easier, but I guess it can be more of a challenge when your main guys aren't on the field due to injury. So it's a great time to bring on our guest and our favorite guy in the space that unfortunately he's right more than we want him to be. And when I'm saying he's right more than we want him to be, he's right like every single time we talk to him.
That's not what we want to hear.
Let's bring our friend Dr. Yonyi. Yonyi, there we are.
What's up, guys?
Well, I'm afraid off the start. I always love seeing you. It's great to see you.
Rip, Dude, forget talking injuries. Why don't we go do like an old-fashioned review or something? Isn't that more fun?
Oh, you like that?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, we were having a good time. See, we're expanding our content here, Yonyi. So we're working on that, but hey, you know what? You tell me. We can get some time. Maybe see if Nick Moore's ever available.
He won't be.
He never will be. We don't know.
That guy can that guy can drink some old fashions.
Oh, yes, yes, he can. Yes, he can. And actually, I just got a Santana Moss jersey for the studio before I got a Nick Moore jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Classic Nick. Classic.
Yeah. Classic Nick. But what's been going on with you over there at True Sports?
Hanging out, putting athletes back together one day at a time, living the dream.
Well, yes, you are. You're doing it from every level, from if you are a professional to every day you're just trying to stay functional to athletes, younger, older, you name it, you're doing it. But then also because you've been doing this for so long, I'm afraid to ask you about baseball. Like I am, because I know I'm not going to like the answer. And actually, Zach, I got a text from Yonyi about it. This morning, right? Because
4 a.m.
Yeah, whenever you were up and saying about like Eflin, like what the hell, And I'm like, I actually, because I wasn't feeling good, I fell asleep and then looked at the message. Oh, Eflin on the IL, which initially, Yonyi, they said shoulder fatigue. And then, yeah, well, he's going on the IL for a low lat strain. Our favorite thing that we like to talk about. So walk us through, why would they say shoulder fatigue? And in your mind, what's the what do we make of the low lat strain right now?
I mean, it's a low level lat strain is what they're saying, but shoulder fatigue in April, I don't know. I think that's puzzling. I think it's just like, waiting to see what the MRI comes back with. MRI comes back with the diagnosis of low level lat strain. That doesn't give us a ton of information to go on. Here's what I can say. Lat strains suck. They suck to rehab. They suck when they happen. And there's a massive crossover. As we saw with our boy Grayson, you hurt a lat, now your elbow becomes exposed and at risk. There are a lot of anatomical reasons as to why that is. But I'm not surprised to see him kind of go down and put on the shelf for a bit instead of just like, hey, we're going to rest him for a couple days.
Yeah, and right now it just seemed more of it was a camouflage saying shoulder fatigue because you're right. They wanted to see what more of the imaging was going to say. But we've seen this story with lat strains, and they said initially where people try to be optimistic of, oh, we're just going to shut him down for a week. But if you shut him down for a week, Yonyi, I'm trying to look at this. I don't see Zach pitching in an actual big league game. If they're shutting him down from throwing for a week, what's the earliest timeline you think we would see Zach Eflin back on the bump in Baltimore?
In Baltimore, I think you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks. That's the optimist in me. When we start putting out guesstimates as to when these guys are going to get back, part of it has to be these guys are freaks. And so a lot of times they will get back faster. Who knows kind of what they're doing in order to allow for that. So that's like the grain of salt. But if you're a high-level pitcher that's not in the big leagues and you strain a lat, you're looking at usually 6 to 8 weeks. That's why I would say 3 to 4, 3 to 5 ballpark. Obviously, I didn't see the imaging, so I'm giving my best guess there. It's important to note like why the lat strain is so challenging. That's a better term than suck. So challenging for us rehab professionals and for the athlete. Obviously, the lat is a massive muscle in your back. It actually starts towards the bottom of your back. In some athletes, it even connects to the pelvis, comes all the way up, wraps around the side of your back, and then inserts into the front of the shoulder with a host of other tendons. The reason this is important is because it is the connection point between your pelvis and the arm. It's the way you translate force all the way up. And so you're going to use it like crazy when you throw. You don't use it much in daily living like you do when you throw. And so you got to think about that as you're trying to train to get back. You're not using it all the time. So it'll get weak, but more importantly, it'll get very tight. It gets stretched when you reach up over your head or when you let your arm fall back into what we call layback position. So that's when you usually pull the lat. And the truth is, like, you look at a guy like Eflin, he's a big dude. Those guys are usually much tighter. That puts you at a higher likelihood of straining the lat. That's why it takes so long to get these guys back.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, I saw Brooks bring this up. We're talking about trying to help take care of injuries. You know, we're seeing so many different things about deceleration drills. You know, is there a way in your mind that actually can help or prevent injuries specifically to the lat region?
Hell yes. So you got to look at the way your athlete is put together. I made the reference to how big of a guy Eflin is, but you look at the way he's built. He's a large flare individual, we call him, which means his ribs kind of flare out. He's very upright, and so that puts the lat. It makes the lat very tight. You look at the way his arm action is. It's actually a tighter arm action. He doesn't have this massive layback that you see a lot. And so his lat is probably tight to begin with. And so when you rehab these things, it's not just the deceleration drills that are important. The lat is actually most active during the acceleration phase of your pitching. So it's from all the way that layback position, just as you start going forward. That's when the lat gets activated. You got to look at the posture of the individual. So if your ribs are really flared, you got to teach the athlete to be very strong along what we call the front line or the anterior line of the athlete to get his core strong. The lat helps in core stability. So it's actually going to be a tremendous amount of core stabilization exercises that I'd be putting Zach through. And then the rotator cuff, both deceleration and acceleration to offload some of that lat will go a long way, and restoring as much range of motion as we can to increase his ease of getting to that layback.
That's a whole lot of things that go in there. And to be honest, Zach, I didn't think that it's the intricacies that go, but that's actually why I love talking to you about it, because it's not just one thing, right? It's not just, hey, we're going to do one thing and that's going to be able to cure. No, your body, you have to put in effort and time into your body to specifically, for one area to work, it means that the other parts have to fire to allow yourself to be put in a position. And if one of those, you know, I think you mentioned this even in the past, but, you know, one of those links is broken or something's off in that chain, then it can just start a cycle of that. And maybe that's a good part of the Grayson, because I did go back and watch, and I got to clip that down. And you mentioned it earlier about the elbow. If you don't take care of things properly, it can lead to further possible injuries here. In the Grayson situation, then, if switching subjects, kind of seems like that is a pretty good example of what we're starting to see with a guy that had back-to-back lat injuries over, when I say back-to-back, he's had now documented lat injuries over the seasons. Yep. And now we're seeing that kind of go into a different part, but it all seems to be connected, Yonyi. Is that fair to say?
Oh, I mean, the pitching motion is so interconnected. Also, because the lat is so large and because it works in what we call multi-planar segments, so it's doing so many things in so many different directions. The lat is so active and integral into proper pitching mechanics. That's why it takes so long. It's not just one fix. By the way, rotator cuff stuff, even elbow stuff, is easier than lats because of what I just said.
Great.
Yeah. Glass half full, dude.
Yep. This is Zach. We love having Yonyi.
Dude, here's the good news. Ready? The good news is minor strain. 1, 2. I got to give the Orioles medical team a lot of credit. Oftentimes, lat tears are totally missed. So a guy will go down with like a gross generalization of, hey, my shoulder just isn't right, shoulder fatigue, but they nailed it really quickly. Like they got right in there, hey, this is the structure that's at fault or the issue, and they're attacking it. So kudos to the new staff, the new Orioles medical staff, that they got ahead of it. It's hard to rehab. It's easier to prevent. And like we said, there's so much that goes into lat prevention. A lot of it is postural. By the way, the lat even helps with breathing mechanics. So you got to boil this all the way down, deal with some retraining breathing patterns, retraining postural patterns. There's a lot that goes into lat injuries. That's why they stick around.
postural patterns too, Zach. Stand up straight while we're saying that.
I know, for real.
I got to work on my posture. It's been brutal, but it's just fascinating. And I like Brooks saying this. You're not making me feel better, Yonyi, but I like the optimism, and also the tricep and tendonitis. That's the fascinating part. Do you think then with Grayson, and if, we don't know exactly what could happen, but you've been pretty right. What's the downside of the situation with Grayson? Is this something that you think could be a prolonged issue?
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, you don't need me to say that. You mentioned that the fact that it's recurring lat stuff and now we're dealing with elbow stuff. I can't be optimistic about that.
We're back. Now we're back. Now we're back exactly to where we need it to be. Goodness gracious. Holy shirts and pants. That's why I'm really curious. I hope the best for Grayson, but it does make me feel that the elbow is going to be something that's going to have to be taken care of at some point down the road because of just the continued stress and strain his body's been dealing with. And really, I still go back to that injury that Grayson had the first time. He was trying to move quickly. I know he wanted to make it to the bigs and the team was exciting. And then all of a sudden it became a problem. And clearly it's not a problem that has gone away. And they've talked about him trying to ramp up properly. Last year he had the shoulder fatigue. I think even for him, it's shoulder inflammation earlier on, only missed a little bit of time, but it was always something. We're talking about the pitching dynamics and trying to sign certain pitchers. Pitchers are very fragile, but it goes more so even into, well, how healthy is their body actually holding up? It's one thing that you're saying, hey, it's the elbow and everything else is in line. But if they have other issues, it's going to make people think here, Yonyi. I don't know.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was going to say, it's rare that, Grayson's on the younger side. Eflin, I think he's 31. I mean, these guys have been throwing for decades now. So it's rare to have a guy reach the bigs, especially this long into Eflin's career where they're 1,000,000% healthy. And I say that so we can be optimistic because they're obviously guys that pitch well into their 30s. So it's nothing new that, hey, there are a few things going on that are contributing to this. So it's not shocking. And there is hope that they can turn it around. But stuff with the lat, it's rarely one pitch and something pops. It's an overuse thing or something that's been lingering. And that's why you'll see guys, hey, you miss a week here, you miss a week there, something's not right until we hone in. But it seems like they got to the bottom of at least the diagnosis part with Eflin pretty quickly.
Well, all we can say is that, hey, the O's are fine, Zach. Just kidding. But overall, it's a long year, and you just got to hope that in this case, guys can try to get as healthy as they can and they can get in a good position. But what we've learned also, if this is our school lesson, lat issues are a big no-no. Yeah. If I've learned anything from you, Yonyi, it is arm issues we can work around. Lat issues, you're screwed. But we can hope for the best.
You're screwed, and it's better, another positive, it's better to take the time now than just skip a week. He's feeling okay, put him back out there. Like, you got to miss the time. You got to put all these things that I mentioned back together, posture, core stability, stuff like that. Take the time now so that we can get him back and fully healthy, so that he can hit the ground running.
Well, there's the optimistic thing. It's happening now, and you nip it in the bud, and all of a sudden, whammy, we got you for the stretch run. So I like that. Hey, Dr. Yonyi, before I let you go then, and we can talk later about where we'll get our old fashions, what else you got going on or cooking over there at True Sports?
Expanding up, looking at Philadelphia. So keep your eyes open for that. We're bringing on a slew of outstanding doctors of physical therapy over the next few months. We got like 10 coming on board to True Sports. So if you got something that's nagging, you want to get in, we're gearing up to be ready for you. We're getting ready to have all of our collegiate athletes come home for the summer. So True Sports will be rocking and rolling.
Yeah, you're staying busy, and then you got to put up with Nick Moore when he decides to show up. I think Nick's doing stuff with the Masters this week. I don't even know. That's one thing Nick loves: football and golf.
And baseball.
Well, I think he does love baseball, but I think it's at times. He goes, dude, I got to get back into watching. I go, yes, you do. And then we'll get you down here. And then we'll all get
he's got to get it. He's got to get into the cage. That's where that guy's got to get back to.
Wow. Can you imagine? We talk about, well, you know what? I don't need the Ravens getting on me because Nick Moore gets hurt from trying to swing a bat.
Yeah.
And show us he's still got it. But Yonyi, I appreciate the time, man. Thanks for jumping on quick notice. And look forward to talking with you soon.
Pleasure, Rip. Talk soon. See you guys.
Yonyi.
Appreciate you, Yonyi.
I hate he's right. Like
he's always right. He's
99% of the
always right.
time.
And I appreciate him being optimistic. I appreciate that. But I hate every time he comes on, he nails it, the prediction.
Yeah,
it's never the prediction we want to hear. Right?
Well,
that's the issue.
I love that he comes on. He's one of my favorite guests to have on. I just got to sit here and be like, you know what? You know what the answer is going to be. You're not going to like it.
Yeah.
But you're going to know. And it's like, also, would you rather someone be honest to your face?
No, exactly. Yeah. I would rather
hurt
know
a little
ahead
bit.
we rip the Band-Aid off. When Yonyi comes on, we have to rip the Band-Aid off.
And rip
it's
it.
like we can sit there in the, maybe they're going to be better. Maybe it's just the shut them down for a week. All right, put it. Cameras on me. Can we? Everyone, are we back? Are we back? We put a hotspot on. Are we? I got a thumb up in the chat if you can see me. Bueller. We're back. All right, we are back. So, not gonna lie, guys, we came back so we could close it out. But I'm gonna put it over to you.
Yeah, well, because I can't even get my computer connected here, but we appreciate each and every one of you. Before we close it out again, thank you guys all for tuning in, and thank you for putting up with my absence. Did a great job, Zach and Kevin and Brad over the last week. Should be here for the long run here, and make sure you tune in tomorrow. We have Omar Vizquel joining us, and also if you are looking to get fit this year and be a part of a community in other ways, we're going to be doing stuff with them all year long. Merit Club has that link in the bio, in the chat, not the bio, the chat. If you click on that and join, it's 3, goodness gracious, 30 free days for you from Merit Clubs, and it's on us. So free 30-day membership from Merit Clubs. We appreciate that, you guys, and we actually have this giant banner that we'll be hanging up here soon enough.
Banner.
Just got this. Also, we're going to be around the yard doing some things. Beautiful.
Ooh. Oh, Merit Clubs.
Beautiful.
Beauty.
I can't even,
Yep, that looks perfect. It looks perfect.
Chaz Michaels is figure skating. Boom. All right. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and hopefully we got a lot to talk about. We will have a lot to talk about tomorrow. But Zach, cue the music. Hum now.
Bum, bum, bum,
Bum, bum. As always here on the Ryan Ripken Show, we appreciate each and every one of you, and have a day, have a night, and just have a great stinking rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new edition. Talk to you guys soon.